Welcome back to the Act 2 podcast, a podcast for the real-life working screenwriter. I'm Tasha Hugh.
And I am Josh Hallman.
And we are Act 2, a network and support group for the everyday working screenwriter. This podcast is just one of the things we do. Thank you for joining us here. Please remember to subscribe to the podcast, rate the podcast, write a comment, do all the things you would do if you liked a podcast.
Loved a podcast.
Loved or liked, even liked. That's a spectrum of rating and subscribing.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Whatever.
just want to give people options. You don't have to love. You can just like.
That's true. I get it. Listen, whatever.
Listen occasionally or listen every week. Either way, if you subscribe, you'll get episodes projected onto your phone because that's how it works. And you can decide if that's a topic that you want to listen to that week. Otherwise, you'll just forget that it's here.
Yeah.
And then you'll miss out on really cool topics like the one we have today.
Yeah. I wonder if people are in podcast mode right now. Like where because yes, everyone's traveling. We're going to be on airplanes. People are taking long drives. You can listen to a lot of things. I don't know, because I've talked to people, this sounds silly, who are like burnt out from content. Who like when I've actually talked to two different people who were just like feel like they have brain rot, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. It's interesting because I guess we're getting into it. We were talking this week about how DVDs are coming back, like literal DVDs that you can hold in your hand and play in a DVD player, because Gen Z is like getting brain rot from this, just constantly being online, and something physical feels, I don't know, I guess relaxing and just like, it just feels nice and different. Duh, is sort of my reaction there.
Yeah. Are we just diving in? Do we check?
I guess so.
Should we do the little pleasantries to find out how each other are mentally doing?
Because it's the end of the year-ish, and I mean, it is. We're here. Those last 2 weeks feels like mental health check-in episodes. How are you doing?
It's just been a little crazy the last couple weeks with stuff that I've needed to get done, and just life in general. And just now I feel it. Like I've kind of hit this place where the plane is landing. We're starting the descent into the holiday season. Not saying I'm still gonna do things, but those pressures of the day-to-day things are just not there as much. So that feels good.
That's nice. That sounds nice.
That's what I'm telling myself. That could change like by mid-afternoon.
I hope it doesn't. I hope for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you're just like sailing. You're just you're drinking your coffee, you're waking up a little later. You kind of don't have a lot to do, which kind of bothers you at first, but then you just really get into it, and maybe you read a book, you catch up on movies. I wish that for you.
I woke up at 4 this morning and I proceeded to watch Now You See Me, Now You Don't again.
That's already out.
Yeah,
streaming?
It's on streaming along with The Running Man, by the way.
Wow.
I wasn't even mad about it. You know, sometimes you wake up and you're like, oh my God, I have so much I need to do. I'm going to be fried by the afternoon. But this morning I was like, you know what? I'm going to go have my lemon water. I'm going to go have my celery juice. I'm going to have my coffee. I just watched the movie.
That sounds amazing.
In that order.
Yeah, Paul and I have decided we don't have anything this Saturday, which is a huge deal for us. We usually have multiple obligations to do or stuff around the house to do. And we have decided we're just going to wake up, stay in our PJs, and watch movies and TV shows all day. And
really?
I'm like so excited by that.
Are you going to order pizza?
I mean, that sounds like that's a necessary element to the day.
I think so.
Yeah. You have to eat poorly because you're in your pajamas and there's room to expand.
You know, what you're saying when you just said that, where you have things in the house, like general things you need to get done, whether it be laundry or some cleaning or organizing or whatever it may be. That shit is so annoying. It just, as you get older, that takes up more of your life. Like,
it's an ongoing thing.
It never ends. It never
we
ends.
do have a shit ton to do on Saturday, technically, because of all that stuff around the house and whatever and Christmas things, but we're just not doing them. Is the thing. They don't go away.
I wonder if you're gonna
Oh
see
God.
them and you're gonna be like, fuck it.
First, we got to do laundry. We got to clean the house. We got to do the dishes, and we got to finish wrapping all the presents, and then we can start watching things. And by then, it's like 1:00, and might as well just go to bed because it's almost the end of the day.
Yeah, you might as well just call it. Oh, okay. Well, I do have a This Week in Writing question for you.
Should we get into it?
Yeah, let's get into it.
This Week in Writing.
This is why this almost wasn't a This Week in Writing, and what made me think of your awesome lazy Saturday that you're going to have. John Cena.
Yes.
From a storytelling perspective, Tasha.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the end of John Cena's career in the WWE?
It's so dumb.
And then just a quick little recap here. This is what I know. I didn't watch. I just saw the highlights. He tapped out to a guy who I've never even heard of.
Exactly. Gunther. I mean, he's like big, but like of a very small, narrow era.
Interesting. So he taps out. Cena just smiles and go. How did you feel?
Listen, if you're new to the podcast, I love wrestling. It's a big reason why I met my husband. I have stopped watching wrestling for actually a couple years now, but I'm still, like, my husband still gives me updates on big things like this, and therefore I got this update, and immediately I was like, that is the stupidest ending that you could think of. And here's the thing. WWE has a pattern of having their retirees lose as a way to for the story for like their new guy, their current guy to feel strong. So you're like, holy shit, this current guy took down a legend, a king in the business. Like that guy is so powerful. What a guy I either want to boo really terribly because he's a heel or cheer on as the greatest hero of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And in storytelling, like that is definitely a path you can take. But John Cena is a worldwide phenomenon and much beloved. He is an incredible seeming like kind human as well as just a successful star. And he like helped build the business in his era in a very significant way. Like you don't want that person that the audience roots for to lose. And to lose to someone who himself is not a legend. Like, that's just weird storytelling to me. That's not what the audience wants. And I know WWE is very good at being like, I'm going to not give you what you want to piss you off so that you will root in a particular way. But as someone who writes television shows, for instance, like, you have to give the audience a win there, in my opinion.
Can I just play devil's advocate?
Go.
As someone who used to watch wrestling and then lost interest, but kind of would pop back in and like The Rock's here and this is happening and someone shows up at WrestleMania, whatever. There is something weirdly poetic about a guy who's been on this end of the tour, who's retiring on a random Saturday, it seems like it wasn't even WrestleMania. It wasn't one of the big major events. And he taps out with a little smile on his face. And it almost was reflective to his character saying, I'm done. I just can't do it anymore. And I've had enough.
Mm-hmm.
So is there something poetic in there?
I don't see the poetry, but I will definitely say that A, everyone's a critic, and B, I don't know anything about the industry that is wrestling.
Same.
Like I don't know how those stories are best crafted, and they do. So I'm sure that they are smarter. But as Tasha, who loves wrestling for a bit but hasn't seen it in years, this is my opinion sitting on my couch.
All right. Well, this is your new life, by the way. You're like where I am, where like you just pop in every once in a while to hear about someone, and you're like, oh yeah, and then it goes away and it pops back up and whatever.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. I have a few this week's in writings, which I will try to get through quickly because we have a pretty big topic. But I want to start with, I've written a script that Writers Group has read. I mean, Josh hasn't given me notes yet, but That's fine. It's okay. Not a big deal.
Fuck me.
But I got writers group notes without Josh. And then I got notes from my manager. And they were very, very different. Like, I left writers group being like, great, I just have to adjust this one character relationship, the main character relationship with his girlfriend that he ends up with by the end of the movie. I just have to strengthen that relationship because those were the only notes I got were about their relationship. And then I texted my manager and I was like, I don't think I need notes from you. I got really great notes from writers group. And she's like, let's talk on Monday. and her notes had nothing to do with the relationship. I think that was just like part and parcel of your problem. Sure, that was a problem with the script, but it wasn't her main problem, which was that by the time I got to 100, Tasha, I stopped caring. Was her note. And then she said that the plot and the character arcs were not paying off by the end of the movie. And here's the thing, she's not wrong. And now I have to like revise the entire thing and it will definitely be better. But God, that is like whiplash is the point of my This Week in Writing.
So the whiplash being you thought you were in the clear.
I'm almost there. I just got to tweak this relationship to, fuck, she's right.
And then the
This
hunter
is
showed
all
up.
wrong.
The hunter showed up with the sniper, Day of the
Yes.
Jackal style. And
Yes.
just shot you in the leg.
Yes.
And you had no inclination of what her thoughts were, or like you didn't feel that way prior to talking to her.
I suspected that my ending could be better.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that bad where you stop caring at page 100, but I had a sense that something was awry.
Well, I don't think it's that extreme, but I feel like you're in that like fight back moment that is really important in your writing process.
I don't think I'm there, actually. I think her note was related to the writers group note. It ultimately, like, it all encompasses each other, which is the writers group was hitting on, like, this main relationship isn't making me feel anything. And I think that is a symptom of the fact that the main character's arc isn't clear. It's a little muddy. And I think it's muddy because I'm changing it from the book that I'm adapting. And because it's new whole cloth stuff, I think I'm still hanging on to book stuff. And so it's just a little confused. It's like Tasha's in there, but also the author is in there. And it needs to be more Tasha's version of the author. But it's okay. I'm hopeful. I feel like I see a clear way through now. It's just interesting. And I think the reason I'm not at fight backstage is because when she gave the note, I was like, my first reaction was, God damn it, she's right. It's not like, oh, that's not accurate. I didn't get defensive and I didn't like have that reaction, which tells me that she's right. And she just articulated it properly.
Yeah. Okay. J. Kelly. I'm not going to talk about the movie.
Okay.
Have you seen the script?
No.
It has no slug lines. There's no underlining. There's no bolding. Nothing. You need to check
no
it.
Slug lines.
Someone had sent it to me and they was like, have you seen the format of J. Kelly? And there's no scene headings. There's nothing.
How do you know when you're somewhere else?
Well, Tasha, I'm glad you asked that. Basically, they wrote in, in just caps in the car, and then they just keep talking. And, then there's more exposition.
So it's like a play, sort of.
A little bit.
More like a play.
It's a fascinating read. If you look at it just for the formatting alone, and again, this goes back to what you can and can't do in screenplays and yada, yada, yada. So if anyone can check out the J. Kelly screenplay, which you can, because I think you can find it on Deadline, and I saw the PDF on there or something like that, you should check it out. It's crazy.
That's so interesting. Well, so Noah Baumbach wrote and directed it. So presumably that's why it is allowed to be that way, because he knew, everyone knows the kind of movie that he is going to direct. Just let him do his thing.
It's still a piece of art, though, that you have to give to fellow actors.
Financiers, actors.
Yeah.
But like you said, like it's a play. So I mean, actors know how to read plays.
That's true. By the way, we don't have to talk about this now, but I feel like I'm like the one person who just really loved J. Kelly.
I don't know if you're going to be the one person. I had to stop because Paul walked in and was like, "You're watching this? I want to watch it." And so I had 45 minutes in, I had to stop. But I'm really enjoying it so far. So, you may not be the only person. You may be one of two.
Well, we'll talk about it when we do our Oscar stuff.
Hell
next,
yeah.
next
Hell
fall.
yeah. We
That
always do
we're-
an Oscar episode. And I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I'm
me
excited.
too. Until just now.
All right. My other this week in writing is that I met with a producer. I had drinks with a producer recently who I really love. I work with her a bunch. We're going to get her on the podcast, actually, which I'm
Let's
really
go.
excited about in the new year. But she was telling me, or I was asking about the difference between meeting with writers versus meeting with actors. Because I find, as a writer, actors are just better at parties. They're better at, I don't know, talking. And writers are historically not. And she was also feeling the same thing. And I started poking with some questions. And it was interesting what she said. She said that she feels like when writers come to her, and she works at a studio, so when writers come to her, she feels like they're scared. Like she needs to lead the meeting and needs to pull them out of themselves and pull them through the meeting, just kind of lead the meeting. And it's exhausting for her, especially if she has a bunch at a time, right? Has to then have dinner with a writer that night after having several generals, whatever it is. But then she meets with actors and she ends up just sitting back and like they lead the meeting and they have stories to tell and they're engaging her as well. It's not just her completely focusing on the writer and trying to pull details out of the writer. Like the actor is not only saying all this about me, but also like, where do you come from? What are you inspired by? And engaging her as well. And then she feels energized after that meeting is over. And I think that is such an important lesson for writers. And if more writers could approach their generals that way, we would be much more successful. And she also gave a story real quick about how she was going to dinner with two writers and she was going with a colleague and the colleague was like, "Oh my God, I'm like so exhausted. I don't know if I can have this dinner with writers. It's like, it's just so hard dinner with writers." And they went to this and then the writers are also actresses and they like killed it. They led the whole dinner. They were laughing. They felt energized by the end of it. It wasn't a slog. And again, same lesson. Josh, what do you think?
I love it. Like it's crazy because a lot of times you go into these meetings and there's that power imbalance. It feels like where if you're meeting someone for the first time and you're just almost like, I'm just happy to be here, and then you let the person ask you questions and you're just sitting there as opposed to engaging like you're actually on a date where you're supposed to be asking questions back and forth and finding out about the other person. And does this person even click with me? Or like, why, what's the dynamic here? Is this someone who I like or that I could work with potentially?
Yeah.
That's a big
Yeah,
deal.
it's like making a new friend / date. It's absolutely the best way to approach it. Man, right. Writers are tough nuts to crack. We're usually very shy, very insecure. We are the opposite of actors, at least outwardly,
Yeah.
And it behooves us to just, to try to get out of our shell.
Speaking of dates, Tasha, guess who I ran into at a party?
Who?
Steve Desmond,
Hey, my secret goal buddy.
the other man. That's the end of my story. I ran into Steve Desmond.
Was there like a jealousy show off?
We had a lovely conversation. He acknowledged that he was your other goal buddy. And that's all. I love talking to him.
He's great. It's our date, Steve
Yeah.
Desmond. Yeah, Steve Desmond and I have been goal buddies for a couple years now. We just met last week.
I'm going to try to steal Steve Desmond.
We could also just up our goal buddy game.
No. You drew
We
the
haven't
line.
met in years, I feel like.
Just because you met with Steve Desmond. I met with Dave just recently.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
Frickin' Desmond. Anyway,
He's the best.
that's all. That's it.
Okay. How did your pitch go with your actress?
It went really good.
Yeah?
Really well. Yeah, thank you. The producer's talking to another producer. There's some financing thing involved. Hopefully in the next 2 weeks I'll have a full-fledged update where I don't have to just speak around the topic and
Right. So is it clear, is it clear that she has decided to come onto the project after that meeting, or still unclear that's what these next couple weeks are about?
It is clear that she wants to.
Okay.
And then there might be some other scheduling conflicts that apparently they're trying to figure out.
Can I ask how the meeting ended up being structured, I guess? Was it because you've paired with another actor to co-write this script, and I'm sure that like he probably started off the meeting or like kind of led the meeting a little bit. How did you guys work together in that pitch?
Yeah, sometimes he'll just throw things to me. Josh, like I'll just know. He'll say like, "What we were talking about this," and then that's kind of like the key to be like, "Okay, I can now talk about character a little bit here, and
Yeah.
let me dive into this a little bit." And and then so and so know, it's just kind of like this. If you and I were talking, and I maybe knew that you would. I'm not saying this is the case, but if you had like a better handle on like the second act of something, I'd be like, this is what like the first act looks like. And then Tasha and I, we were kind of talking about the second act, and then you'd be like,
I
yeah.
love
So
that.
and then it's just kind of like a ping pong.
So did you have like a script written at all, or you just had the kind of like bullets you needed to talk
I
about?
had bullets
Okay.
and like character stuff, like specific things I wanted to say about a character.
Yeah. God, I need to get better at that aspect.
Now, I think you're fine, Tasha.
I I script everything. But I don't pitch a lot with other people. I've like kind of done it twice in my life. I pitched a TV show with a co-showrunner because I was not yet a showrunner at the time, so they needed to pair me with someone, so I pitched with him. Um, but it wasn't like that casual, like, "Hey man, like tell me about character now." Like that seems cool. That seems like so
Yeah.
chill. It was more scripted, and same with the second one that I'm thinking of, which was done with my co-EPs who are also actors.
I will say this wasn't a full on script pitch. It was more character based and how we were going to make tweaks to the character if this person became involved.
Got it, because she'd read it already, so it was more
Yeah.
like, now that you've read it, here are our thoughts about.
Yeah, and how this is how this could change. This is how we could do this. This is why you'd be great for it. I mean, you're like your
Got
own
it.
person.
Got it. Yeah, okay, I get why that's a bullet
Yeah,
scenario.
that's not like if it were if pitch, I would probably script out the first portion and then
Yeah.
bullet the rest.
God, see? God damn it.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, go.
Speaking of pitches, I pitched to an author, as that same week that you pitched to an actress, I pitched to an author, and afterwards got like one of the greatest compliments of my life, where he was like, "You should give a master class to people who pitch to authors." And I was like, "Well, why?" Because I didn't think I did that great. And he was like, "Most writers who speak to authors about like, here's my take on your book, they give so many details about the book that the author already knows." You don't, because you're speaking to the person who wrote it and lived with it for however many years. You don't need to do that. And he's like, what you did was you basically just talked about how you would change things. And I told it in the manner of a story, but I focused in on and then we do this new thing, and then that leads to this new thing. And
Sure.
I could see her reacting like, "Oh, like that's a really cool version of that idea or that character," rather than going piece by piece. So I just thought that was also an interesting learning experience.
That makes sense. You know when you hear people telling somebody something that they already know, like in your script, Tasha, and then you just I'll explain the first act to you. And you're like,
Mhm.
yeah, I wrote it.
I know. I remember. Get to the point. All right, two more this week's in writings. As we wrap up the year, UCLA diversity study has come out, and they have done a report on 2024. I don't know why it took this long, to be honest. It probably doesn't take that much work to put this together. This is a terrible way to introduce this study, but they have concluded that over 90% of series that are streaming in 2024 were from white creators. And to be specific, they broke it down to 91.7% of shows that were streaming in 2024 had white creators, and that 78% of that group were male creators. And that 80% of the leads in the most watched comedies and dramas of 2024 were led by white actors. And then the breakdown that they do of like the rest of the group is actually really I mean, of course, very shocking. Only 0.3% of creators were from Indigenous Americans, which continues to be really small, and that's upsetting. 2.5% were Asian, 1.1% were Latinx, and 3.3% were Black. And then multiracial was 1.1%. Am I multiracial or am I Asian?
Tasha, I am a white guy. You're asking. I don't know. After
I
what you
don't
just
know.
said, I'm not really sure I'm really in the right place to answer anything at this point.
Anyway, I just wanted to bring this up. I feel like it's horrible. We need more diverse perspectives on the world, both literally and figuratively. So it's a bat signal to all of you who are out there who can skew those numbers in 2026.
It is strange in an analytic world that we live in currently, where you could pretty much figure out what most people ate for breakfast if you really tried to break it down in some kind of statistical analysis. Why is this taking so long why is there a 1-year gap to figure
That's
this
what
out?
I'm saying. That it just seems weird. Like I could go through Netflix myself and then probably make this assumption by the end of the week.
Yeah. The analytics are crazy. Like your phone knows your viewing habits every week. You get an update of how
Yeah.
many hours you've spent on an app. How do they not know who? Okay, anyway, go ahead.
Maybe it's not a top priority of movies.
Someone's like, "Did you do that report?" They're like, "Oh shit, I got to get that report done." Yeah.
All right, our last This Week in Writing on a more sober note, Joshua.
Yes.
This past Sunday, I was at a cooking class when I got a text from you that said, "Are you seeing this news about Rob Reiner?" And then the night proceeded to unfold very, very terribly. We've lost a great one in our industry. I feel like when I was a kid and a teenager, I feel like Rob Reiner was like the first director and writer whose face I actually knew. I don't know if you felt that way as well, but I feel like he was behind all of my favorite movies for a long time. He would also put himself in the movies with little cameos or small roles because he himself came up as an actor. So, yeah, heartbreaking news about Rob Reiner.
Terrible. It was freaking crazy. Somebody, I forgot where I heard this, but someone had commented that he made adult movies feel very digestible to people who are younger, because the people who were saying that were, in their 40s, and so they came up watching, Stand By Me or, Sleepless in Seattle or whatever. Wait, Wait, did
When
he do
Harry Met
Sleepless-
Sally.
Excuse me, When Harry Met Sally. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like, I feel like there were movies that had these like really big ideas, but they felt like blockbusters, but they weren't blockbusters. And that's how I
Mhm.
always felt about Rob Reiner movies, like The Princess Bride or Spinal Tap or whatever. Like, these are beloved movies.
Yeah. What is your favorite Rob Reiner movie?
This sounds silly, but I really like the movie The American President.
Oh, it's so good.
But I know that's like weird, and it should be like Stand By Me. I love The Princess Bride.
No, American President's also my favorite.
But it also is like he made Misery. Like that's a
Mhm.
really insane. Like he has 2 really great Stephen King adaptations in Stand By Me and Misery, and so like that's not easy to do. I feel like there's just he was just very talented in that regard, and I mean, just in regard to Hollywood, I mean, he was very important. He was like very instrumental in bringing like like Seinfeld, like Castle Rock, like that helped usher in one of the most influential TV shows. Obviously, we could talk about him forever, and I don't know like every specific credit that he has, and I know I'm missing a million different things, but he was great. It sucks.
Yeah.
It's like a titan has just
It
been
is.
taken from the industry.
It is a titan. Yeah, I agree. It's so hard to choose. I think The Princess Bride was really influential on me as a kid because I didn't learn to love fantasy until much later, but that was one of the first, if not like the fantasy movie growing up that was so accessible,
Yeah.
so character driven. There was so much humor without it being a comedy. Like every character felt real and not like tropes, which is crazy because it was kind of playing on tropes,
Yeah.
right? Like the giant, the pirate king, the princess. But there was something so real about it and accessible that I was like, oh, can fantasy actually be this way?
Yeah.
And then you get When Harry Met Sally, which was huge, and it came out in 1989, and I was 7 years old. So to your point, yeah, like I rewatched this movie over and over again. And that is fascinating to me because Like, it's not you guys know my taste. When Harry Met Sally isn't, like, in the genre that I typically go to, but it kind of makes me wonder, like, literally right now as I'm thinking about it, like, did little Tasha, who would grow up to be a writer in film and TV, like, was she just fascinated by
Yeah.
how this movie was constructed? Nora Ephron wrote this thing, and it's just fucking genius.
You know, that's why I said Sleepless in Seattle, is because Rob Reiner's in Sleepless in Seattle, which is written by Nora Ephron, and I believe Harry Met
Right.
Sally was her first debut, like her big break, of course, like
Right.
screenwriting wise.
It's incredible. It's so good. Then and then you get Misery, which is so different, but that came out when I was 8 years old, and I remember watching it with my mom because she is such a Stephen King fan, and is, by the way, probably why I say that Amelia can watch The Mighty Nine, because I was watching Misery at 8 years old.
Well, so this goes back to he made these really adult big movies that feels like you shouldn't be watching them as a kid, but like very accessible for like various ages. It's kind of it's very hard to wrap your head around, like that
Yeah.
idea of and being able to do that. But
Yeah, because it's not as much as, Misery is about a woman who kidnaps her favorite author and then tortures him, written by Stephen King, obviously inspired by some of his own fears and issues. But it wasn't, like, graphic
right.
necessarily. There's some blood in it, but, she does some pretty terrible things, but it's not like torture porn by any means. It is softer in some ways because it is more about character than it is about making you feel disgusted or uncomfortable. It's about what's going on, like, psychologically with these characters. But to your point, American President, written by Aaron Sorkin, is one of my favorites. But I think A Few Good Men, also written by Aaron
Of
Sorkin,
course, yeah.
beats it out. And what a fucking resume. Like, to go from Princess Bride, Misery, Stand By Me, This Is Spinal Tap, which is a freaking classic. It's like a mockumentary,
yeah.
I guess. Comedy mockumentary. And then to do American President and A Few Good Men? What
Yeah.
the fuck?
Yeah. That's
It's so
insane.
good.
It really is. It's insane to think about. That's one of those people where you're like, what kind of stuff do you write? What
Yeah.
kind of stuff do you direct? You're like, fucking whatever I want, man.
Yeah.
I can do it all. I can produce, I can act, I can write, I can direct. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
So talented.
Yeah.
Anyways, pour one out for Rob Reiner. If you haven't seen any of those movies we just missed, or there's a gap in your Rob Reiner knowledge, go watch one of them over the holidays.
Yeah.
Okay, our main topic today, how to plan your screenwriting year, a month-by-month guide, which comes from a final draft blog post by Ken Miyamoto. And I appreciate him. He put in the work on this blog post. And so I thought we would talk about it. And per our usual with blog posts, we go through, we add our commentary, we add our own experiences. But this was such a cool breakdown of how to think of your year. And as you will find, if you are new to the podcast, Josh and I love goals. We love scheduling. We love planning. And we have a really big episode at the start of the year that is all about what our goals are and then practically how to break down your goals so that by the end of the year, you have achieved them as screenwriters. And this is a really great kind of first step into our holiday conversation that we like to have.
Yeah. Love it.
I love it. I love it too because our business is very hard, and I think the common denominator amongst those who succeed is less about talent and it's more about determination. It's people who don't give up, it's people who keep moving forward, and I think all of the tools we're going to start talking about from here into the new year are tools to help you keep moving forward and to make progress, because the more you feel like you are making progress, however small, the less likely you are to succumb to despair and to give up. So this is a really great resource. We're going to put the link, of course, in our episode description so that you can read it for yourself. I'm going to start January. I'm just going to get into it. Okay, Ken says that in January, it is a time for reboot, refocus, and prep for your scripts for the first window of opportunity in the year. Now, Ken talks about the Hollywood shutdown that happens that basically the week before Thanksgiving until pretty much end of January, if not early February, I will say. He says halfway through January. I think it's longer. The industry is kind of not functioning on all cylinders. Even if people happen to be in the office and not taking vacations, which they usually are, they are still pretty checked out during this time. And then you have Sundance that happens around January 22nd and into early February. So honestly, in my opinion, February is when most people are back at their desks doing any kind of real work, which I think is great for you, writer, us, because it means that this is your window to basically get your shit together. And as Ken says, January is all about preparation. The game begins in February, but the preparation is done in January, he says. So, Ken recommends you do the following things in January. And Josh, I'm curious about your opinion about these things. He says, write down some actionable goals. Again, we're going to get into a huge topic about this at the start of the year. He says, polish any scripts that you plan to start submitting in February and March. This is, of course, if you plan to take out specs or you're going to festivals, contests, that kind of thing. Tighten your log lines, synopses, and query email content.
Yeah.
Which I love. He says, build your list of potential managers, development execs, producers, and production companies to approach with your spec. And he says, use IMDb Pro in order to kind of map out the places, the people that you want to start sending your stuff to. If you have reps, by the way, they will do a lot of this work for you. However, you should also come with your own list. Josh and I recently, when we went out with a spec, we came with a list of our favorites, people we thought it would be great for, and they also had their input as well. And some of the stuff that we had on our list was not on their list. So I think that's very helpful. Can also suggest using January to find 2 to 3 new original concepts for your new screenplays that you're going to write this year. I think this is great because all of the prep that he's talking about can kind of be back burner brain stuff, right? Like you're looking up people's names, you're figuring out who has the right company for your script that you want to send out this year. You're maybe polishing some things, you're writing down your goals. That's not working on a blank page, which is the heavy lifting stuff of our job, right? So starting to find concepts, starting to brainstorm 2 to 3 new ideas, I think is a really great use of your brain during this January time. And you can just spend 20 to 30 minutes on this a night. You can spend half a day on a weekend, however you need to do this in your schedule. But I like this a lot. In other words, this is really great prep work to start your year off really strong.
Yeah.
Finally, Ken says, create a writing schedule for the year for those 2 to 3 new ideas. So personally, while I like having 2 to 3 new concepts for the year, I feel like writing 3 original specs in 1 year is not realistic. And I think it sets you up for failure. That is my opinion. Because I think it's a really radical goal, especially for anyone who might have a full-time job or is writing other movies or television as their job during this year. Finishing 3 original specs in 1 year is just a lot. However, I agree with him that having 2 to 3 new ideas by the end of January is a really great start. And I would say that when you are prepping your year's schedule, plan on writing 2 new specs in 2026. And have that bonus idea prepped as well. Because let's say you get into it and by March you're like, fuck, this idea sucks. Or something just sold that is exactly this idea. Or whatever hiccup comes up, you can easily pivot now to your third idea. Or conversely, if you do manage to knock out 2 specs this year, you have a third one that you can already start prepping for your 2027. So I love it. It helps you have momentum so you don't stall out and so you don't ultimately give up. What do you think of this January plan?
Yeah, I think it's a good plan. I tend to try to go into the year with like just on fire, so which we'll get into, where I'm not just kind of like some of these things that he's talking about. I'm kind of in that zone currently, like
In December.
the December end of December, some new ideas, some things, ideas that I didn't even get to this year that I'm just like, okay, this might spill over. I like the idea of, brainstorming more ideas, but as you know, ideas, as all writers know, ideas don't just like come in 1 month. You might be traveling in May and you see something, you're like, that's it. Like, that's what I need to write because I just went to a castle and I heard about this haunted castle and I got to do this. So I don't think this is what he's saying, but just kind of like, here are my 3 ideas. Now I'm going to write these for the rest of the year. Yes, I agree with you. That is a recipe for disaster and can really set you up for failure.
Yeah. But to your point about getting that sort of mid-year sudden inspiration, and new idea suddenly takes precedence for you and you can't wait to write it and you must write it in 2026. I feel like having a schedule like what we're talking about, what we're going to talk about in our big goals episode, helps you manage that new idea. Because sometimes when that happens to you and you don't have this sort of foundation in place, then it can spiral everything. Like nothing ends up getting done. You end up halfway through this cool new idea and then you're nowhere by the end of the year because you have nothing finished. So the more you can schedule yourself, the more if you have an idea in May, you can say, okay, this new idea can slot in here because I'd already planned to be writing new scripts in these 2 months. So that's where it can go rather than sort of unraveling everything that you've worked towards this year and intend to work towards the rest of the year because you have a new idea. So just keep that in mind. Obviously, there's always going to be curveballs, and the more you can plan, our opinion is the more that you can successfully take these curveballs and what is the metaphor, I guess, hit them out of the park.
Nice.
Okay, February is the post-Sundance early window of opportunity, says Ken. Ken feels that after the high of Sundance, where reps are signing new talent actively there, agents come home and they want to continue with that high and sign even more talent, which I think is very interesting. I think it kind of has some merit. He says what screenwriters should focus on in the month of February is sending out your script, the one that Josh is talking about, that you've like worked on towards the end of last year. You have this thing finished already, and now you are ready to send it out. So January was you kind of getting all your ducks in a row about who you're going to send it to and getting that organized. In February, now that people are back at their desks looking to sign new writers or read new material to buy, now is the time to start sending out that script. Ken also has another piece of advice here that I really like that we talk about a lot as well, Josh. He says, because if you get he says, if you're sending out your scripts and you get a response to a query letter, it can often be, what else do you have?
Right.
And that sounds like the most frustrating question in the world because it is. But part of what they are trying to suss out when they ask that question is, are you actually a writer, or are you just someone who has written a script once? And if you are a writer, what kind of writer are you? Are you actually any good, or is this one script that you spent 5 years on the exception to the rule? Do you have a voice, or is this just a one-off? And I think that what Ken is doing here and telling you to try to create these 2 to 3 scripts within a year is to help you with this part of the year. And when February comes around next year, you not only have this one amazing script you're sending out, you have 2 to 3, or at least you have ideas that you can pitch them, right? Ideally, you have 2 scripts by the end of the year, finished scripts, but then you have additional ideas if they say, what else do you have? And I think that is a really important key. So when you get to your February and you're sending out your query letters or you're sending out your spec, and you're doing this yourself, right? You don't have a huge resume behind you. You are doing this all on your own. It is important, I think, to have other scripts ready to go. And now Ken recommends just not sending anything out at all until you have, he says, 3 to 5 additional ideas. That feels like a lot to me.
Yeah.
I will say, and Josh and I will never tell anyone to not shoot their shot. I kind of say go for it. If you have one solid script, it's good. You've gotten a ton of feedback. You know that it's really solid. This speaks to who you are. Send it out. And if they say, what else do you got? Come ready with log lines. And you can say, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm almost done with this one.
Yeah, write that
You
shit in
just-
a week.
Yeah, you could sort of fudge the truth a little bit, but
Yeah.
yes, definitely have ideas. But I wouldn't say don't not do something your entire year. Don't not send out your script for a whole year because you're waiting to have 2 to 5 additional ideas that you could answer this question with.
Yeah.
That's just a whole year wasted, in my opinion.
I agree.
Okay, to sum up what to do in February, according to Ken, send your finished script to targeted managers, development executives, producers, and production companies who align with the genre of your script. Of course, you're going to go into IMDb Pro. You're going to do your Googling before you do any of this. You're going to do your homework, and you're not going to send your comedy to people who only make John Wick movies. You got to be targeted. You got to be smart about where you're sending things because you'll get more yeses, right? Another thing he says is to create a project history document, which I really like because I love organization. He says, detail your completed scripts that you're ready to submit. So have, a Google sheet, an Excel spreadsheet that has the title, the log line, the project history of that project, meaning has it placed in major contests? Has it been picked up in previous deals? So that you have a go-to list to start sending things out with all of the details there ready to go. He also says that in February is when you get to start developing your new scripts. Now, this step I have a little bit of beef with because I agree that now that you've spent January coming up with 2 to 3 new ideas, February is the time to start executing on those ideas. But what Ken suggests is find titles, write log lines, and write a synopsis for each of your 2 to 3 new ideas you're going to write this year, and then begin developing outlines for them, which to me feels like that's putting the cart before the horse just a little bit. Ideally, when you are submitting your new original spec in February of 2026, you do have titles, log lines, synopses for your ideas that you're ready to pitch if someone does ask, what else do you have? But starting your development of your new idea with titles, log lines, and synopses seems odd to me.
Yeah, I agree.
February instead should be like the development work here should be brainstorming. It should be outlining. Your title and log line does not need to come before you actually start writing. So that's my little beef with Ken here. Otherwise, you're killing it, Ken, and I love this. Okay, moving on to March, which Ken says is the best month of the year to market your spec scripts. And I think we agree. March and early April are kind of prime months for specs, don't you think?
I do. It's interesting that you're saying this, and I know we're talking about this, but I've often heard that things have changed so much that these rules might not apply, but they also do apply. It's this weird thing. Like people
It's looser than it might have been a little bit ago.
But people still use Sundance as a huge excuse.
Yeah.
Like it's like, come on, bro. Like really? You're at Sundance. You whatever. I mean, anyway.
And also, how many people do we know, or like producers that we actively work with, go to Sundance?
Yeah.
Not a lot.
It's just fucking laziness is what it is for people.
Honestly, any excuse to not work.
Yeah.
All right. Ken says what to do in March is continue to market and send out your spec script, to send follow-ups to anyone who responded to your February queries, meaning, I assume, that if anyone in February said, hey, I can't wait to read this, thank you so much for sending, in March is when you can gently follow up with that person and ask, hey, have you had a chance to look at the script yet? I'd love your thoughts. It is not a time to respond to people who have not replied to your query in February. People who have not replied to your February query at all, I think they don't want to read your shit. So if you want to, you can do one more follow-up in March if that makes your soul feel better. But if you don't get a response, continuing to follow up with people is just not usually the right idea. It gives off a sort of desperate feel, I guess, to the producer. They're either busy or they read your query letter and they don't want to read it. So move on to the next person on your list, which is why we create these nice lists. Last thing Ken says in March is to start to gear up to write your next script after having done the necessary front-end development work in February. Again, I don't think that necessary development work is title, logline, and synopsis. However, if you took February to outline one of your newest ideas, that is definitely time well spent, and it means that now that you're in March, you can start executing the outline you just wrote. And if a month seems too short a time to outline your idea, I want to give you an idea of a realistic timeline in the world of professional TV writing, which is in a writer's room for hour-long drama, which is, about 45 pages. You get 1 week to write an outline. So give yourself the 3 weeks of February to outline one feature script. That feels like a solid timeline to me.
Yeah.
I will say for TV writers' rooms, a lot of even more front-end work has happened before you go to outline, meaning a lot of the brainstorming, a lot of putting ideas up on a board, writing scenes up, putting them on a board until the scenes look like they're all in the right place. So you should include that in your February timeline of writing an outline. But you should be able to write an outline in February if that's what you're focusing on solely.
I agree.
Which is, I'm talking to myself, by the way, because 2026, as we'll see in Tasha's year of goals is going to be a lot about spec writing. Okay. April is the pre-Cannes submission month. Cannes is in mid to late May. And like Sundance, a lot of execs and reps are prepping to go to Cannes to make deals for their clients, to find new talent. So they start to slow down their spec reading kind of the later into April that you go. Now, obviously, not everyone goes to Cannes, so this is a generality, but I think it's good to just be aware of that it exists. So what to do in April, he says, start to look for early bird contest and fellowship submission periods, prep for those summer deadlines for those fellowships and contests, and keep writing that spec. Ken suggests, and I really like this idea.
I love how we're just like
I
holding
love
Ken.
Ken.
You're the what does Ken say?
He is great. Ken's the best. I don't know Ken personally, but I love this blog post. Ken suggests that you try to work to a professional deadline, start training that way, basically. And the WGA gives you 12 weeks to write a feature screenplay, an original first draft, or 3 months. So if you are able to write in that time, you are practicing being able to do that for when you get hired to do that. Okay, May.
I'm gonna have like a strong opinion like real soon.
I bet you will. Which I'm excited for. So in May, he says, focus on your writing. Most places, they're gearing up for Cannes. So this is kind of your second January. It's your time to focus on your writing, finish your first new script, at least get a first draft done by May, and then start compiling your list of any feedback or responses that you may have gotten for your cold queries earlier in February from your script that you wrote last year. Start tracking those contest and fellowship entry deadlines here in May. Thoughts, or shall I move on to June?
I'm going to chime in on July, but yeah,
Okay.
Go ahead.
June is summer development season. The chaos of Cannes is over, and it is time for people to start reading again and decision makers to start developing and greenlighting movies. I love his optimism. What to do in June, he says. Finish submitting any scripts that you have ready and that have been in the chamber to those major contests and to those fellowships. Great. Finish your new script this month. That script that you started in January, finish that fucker.
Finish that fucker.
Finish it by June. Have that as
Tasha's
your goal.
mantra 2026.
Finish that fucker. This is the time where you have gotten feedback, you're addressing feedback, you're revising it, you're getting it to this crispy place where it is just so good and so tight. This is what your June is for. July.
Okay. When you're done with this, I'm going to now chime in.
Okay. So July, Ken says that a lot of execs go on vacation. I don't know if that's true. I guess execs with kids might use this as an opportunity to go on a trip with their kids since they're out of school, but things slow down a little bit, he says. Maybe. I've not particularly felt that to be true. But he says what to do in July. This is also where I have thoughts. Okay. July, outline your second spec idea. Ken talks about kind of continuing to send cold queries out. I'm not really sure about that. I think if you submitted something in February and it's now July and they haven't gotten back to you, or they keep telling you that they're going to read it, they're not going to read it, guys. But if they are actively in contact with you saying like, hey, like I'd love to read your script, I'd love to get it to my bosses, I just haven't gotten to it yet, then yes, of course, you can obviously kind of keep poking at them maybe once a month at most. But barring all of that, I think let all of the querying stuff go by July and just focus on your new idea. Joshua.
All right, so here's the deal. I think that there's too much pressure put on Cannes and Sundance and things like that. I really believe that. I just don't think people regard them in the same way that they used to. That's just number one, my opinion. I do like that Ken brought up the July stuff. I don't know. I do think there is some nuance within vacations and school starting, school ending, people leaving. It just really changes the way things are. I think that the first couple months of the year are when you hit the ground running and everyone kind of comes in emotionally wanting to do great things. So that is everybody in the industry, writers, executives, everyone. And then like as the year goes on, yes, it just kind of like steadies and just fuck, man, you just have to keep writing and strengthen your personal relationships. I feel like those are like the two main things, so you can always chime in and check with people. Like, I don't
That's a good July. Keep writing and building your relationships. I love it.
know. Okay.
Moving on to August. He says it's a surprisingly strong month for spec sales, which I'm sure he's done his homework. So that may be accurate. Ken says that script sales spike up historically during August, likely because higher up decision makers have finally gone through their recommended stack of scripts. I actually do like this assessment, Ken. That sounds likely, given how long it takes for executives at studios to read things. Something Ken wants to remind us all here is that the spec sale market is very seasonal, but that the open writing assignment market still exists throughout the year. So you can continue to get jobs throughout the year. It's not like these are the only windows with which you can get jobs, right? What to do in August? He says, finish your second new script. So you've already finished your first new script earlier in, what was it, June? Did we finish that? Like really got revisions in and
Sure.
like multiple drafts of that done by June. So in August, he says, finish your new script, your second script of the year. And he suggests taking a break from your second script now that you've finished it in August and go back to your first script, reread it. Does it need any tweaks a little bit? Now that you've had some time apart from it, since you finished it in June, go back to your first script and just really see if you're done.
Fuck, I love optimism. Like,
I love
this is if everything is going totally fine. This is as if you don't have some weird emotional breakdown, you don't have any personal stuff, you don't see your movie being made, you don't read about the exact same spec. This is Ken, bless you. This is where I want us to live.
This is where I want to live.
Yeah.
In Ken's world.
Ken needs to throw in 1 month of depression. Like,
this is the time you're allowed to break down. But next month, get back on your feet.
Coming on the podcast, Ken.
In September, he says the fall pitching season has begun. Vacations are ending. Development has reactivated. September can be a very good month for spec writers. He says, what to do in September? Repeat what you did in February through April. But now, hopefully you have new insights, new experiences from what you've built over the year. Revisit and rewrite your second new script to get it ready to go out by the second half of September. So that's really the focus. Get your second new script in tip-top shape. That's what you do in September.
Okay.
October, he says the holidays are coming, and that is accurate. Halloween, to me, seems like the time when people start to check out now.
It does feel like that.
Bizarre. They are, on a practical level, they're starting to look at their finances for the year. They're realizing they probably spent too much money for the year. They don't want to buy something new. So what to do in October? He says, finish your 2 new scripts. Like, done. This is the last. You're in the red zone.
Well, there is something I think, just to go back real quickly. Also, you should kind of take inventory of the kind of script you have. If you have a horror spec, for instance, you're going to probably want that done months before October so you can get it into a place, because there is legitimacy to the idea that people like to take specs to market around the holidays, and we even took our Christmas thing out to much love right around Thanksgiving, Christmassy time.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. Yeah, if you have a horror script this year, make it your first one so that it's well ready by October and you've already sent it out.
Yeah.
And then he says this is the month to prep your third script, where you are starting to brainstorm, starting to outline. The holiday slowdown is going to be your final push of productivity, he says. I don't disagree. I'm okay with it being this late in the year for you to start working on a third idea, because you should focus on 2 ideas, because third is like fucking bonus. I mean, in an ideal world, you get to 3. Jesus. Okay. November, the Hollywood shutdown begins, and Ken has some great advice here, actually. He says you could start that third script, or, and this is what I really wanted to talk to you about, Josh, or you could finally relax for the first time all year. And by relax, he doesn't mean do nothing. He actually means watch movies, watch TV. Yes, spend time with your family and friends. And I will add, go be inspired by them. Go do things that recharge your creative battery in this time, because Hollywood is done. They're over.
Yeah.
They're barely alive during this time.
The burnout is real, man.
It is so real. It's real for you because you've written 2 scripts this year and also tried to pay your bills. It's real for the executives. So use this time to recharge your creative battery, because nobody is working. It is now time for you to get ready for January, when you're going to hit the ground running, as Josh says. So take November and December to live life worth writing about, is what I say.
I love that.
I love it too. Now we're into December, and he says, reflect on the previous year and look ahead to the next. What screenwriters should focus on in December, which is where we are now, is to reflect. How can you be a better screenwriter?
Yeah.
I love these questions, actually, that he's asking you to ask yourself, because I don't think we do enough self-reflection as writers to help ourselves get better for the next year. And we, Josh and I, this is a big reason why we started this podcast, are so big about learning and being better at our jobs and our craft. And December is when he says you can really sit down and be like, okay, how can I be more successful at how I maybe took my spec to market? How can I be more successful with how I dealt with my reps this year? How can I expand my industry or network? Let me start to think about that so that next year I can have a plan. How can you choose better or more desirable marketable concepts to develop and write if you met with, nothing but rejection this year?
Sure.
How can you learn from your successes and your failures this year? How can you better prepare yourself for going back to January? All amazing questions. Ken, again, you knocked it out of the park with this list. It's a really cool way to start thinking about your year. And every individual is going to have a different version of what this looks like for them practically. And I don't want people to feel like they have to hit these target months or they will have failed, because that's just added unnecessary arbitrary pressure to put on yourself. However, if you use this as a good foundation for yourself and be like, okay, he says, I should have 2 scripts by October. That feels like a reasonable goal. I need to aim for that. Now, how do I schedule myself to make sure that I personally, with all of my obligations, are able to hit that mark? And again, we will talk about this idea and how to actually have actionable goals that you can do when we get into the top of the new year. But final thoughts, Joshua. What do you think about this calendar idea?
I just love you, Ken.
It's the best. It's just, I feel better already. I feel like this happens to me every year. As we get to November, December, I just feel like chaotic.
Yeah. I think it's personality based, because breaking this stuff down it's tough, especially when you're not even incorporating your other life goals into your screenwriting goals, which can be a whole other thing, whatever your personal goals are. But I do think you need a schedule, and if this schedule works for you, great. If not, kind of have to figure out what does work for you. But I do like it because he broke down a reasonable approach.
Yeah. All right, that is our episode for today. Let us know your thoughts about this calendar idea, if it resonates with you or not. And stick around for the top of the new year with our goals episode. We love it.
Yeah.
Okay, quote of the day. Read 1,000 books and your words will flow like a river. Virginia Woolf.
Boom.
Please remember to rate and subscribe. Follow us at ActTwoWriters for more awesome writing stuff. You can follow me, Tasha, at Story Thursday on Instagram, or on Twitter at Tasha 3.0.
I'm Joshua Hellman on Twitter, Josh Hellman on Instagram.
And as always, the Act Two podcast is a production of Act Two, a network and support group for the everyday working screenwriter. This episode was edited by Paul Lundquist.